Welcome back to TCM. I'm Dave Karger. We've been spending Monday nights in June with our star of the month, Marilyn Monroe. Born on June 1st, 1926, Monroe would have been 100 years old this month. And here on TCM, we've been honoring her centenary with a lineup of some of her most memorable films. Up next is the last film Monroe ever completed, written by her husband at the time, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Arthur Miller. Monroe stars as a newly divorced woman who falls in with a group of lonely drifters who spend their time wrangling wild horses in the Nevada desert. From director John Huston in 1961, also starring Clark Gable and Montgomery Clift, it's The Misfits. Now, before the film begins, we have a special treat for you tonight. This year marks the 65th anniversary of The Misfits, and at the TCM Classic Film Festival last month, we had the pleasure of having Oscar nominee Sharon Stone introduce a screening of the film with my fellow TCM host, Eddie Muller. So we decided to share a portion of their conversation with you now. Take a look.
Why did you want to introduce this film?
Oh, so many reasons. First of all, I was that kid that never went outside but spent every Saturday morning watching old movies.
None of these people can relate.
Yeah, I was the one whose ex-husband is probably ex because he finally said to me, "Can't you watch anything in color?" But I'm also a big Marilyn Monroe fan. And I really feel that Marilyn has gotten such a weird rap. It's like everybody wants to make something wrong with her. Too fat, too skinny, too crazy. Well, you know, it's just amazing how many geniuses were in love with her and would just marry her and chase her around from end to end if she was such a mess, right? Or that she was able to greenlight so many pictures if she was such a disaster. And when you think about a film like this, you think about the other disasters, like the great John Huston, who was away gambling the production money away in Reno. Or you think about Clark Gable, who didn't get along with her, but you know, he was pushing 60 and still wearing the pencil mustache. And I'm sure that her little bowl of buttercream was pretty threatening because she was getting a divorce and very, very, very vulnerable. And exactly what was happening in the film was happening. And that's unnerving. To have that kind of beauty and wonder and a person who's willing to stay in a state of wonder in front of you when you're shutting down for 1,000 different reasons, which all these men around her were, has to be incredibly threatening.
Which is the theme of the movie.
And which only Thelma Ritter really seemed to have a handle on.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Sharon, because it was Marilyn Monroe who told Arthur Miller to write that part into the film specifically for Thelma Ritter.
We needed a voice of reason, right? The film would not have had a rudder.
But this film, to me, is interesting because it has a legend about it because of the lives of the people involved, and that there's a little, it's like death is stalking everybody in this film, actually. All the players, except, God love him, Eli Wallach, who lived to be almost 100 years old. Clark Gable would die literally days after finishing making this movie. It was right around the corner for Monty Clift, and of course, 18 months later, Marilyn would be gone. I just learned from Sharon that she actually lives in Montgomery Clift's house.
I do. I do.
Yes.
I do. I bought it after Basic Instinct because it had a big gate, but it was in complete disrepair. And it was subdivided into two properties. The main house and the pool house and the guest house were a separate address. So first I bought the main house, and then years later I bought next door. And so I restored it exactly how it was, which made people crazy because they wanted to make it modern, and I was like, not so fast.
Very good. We like people who want to preserve the past. That's kind of what we do here. So we appreciate that.
So I hope you enjoy this film. I hope you notice all the little nuances, because while it's Arthur Miller's words, it's John Huston's directing, and it's called show business, not tell business. So notice the things, the nuances, the things that happen. Notice how Clark Gable ultimately lays down on that horse.
Beautiful.
It's just the most beautiful, poignant moment, and how everybody takes it. Just notice. Notice how everybody starts to come to terms with their life and who they are, and how they're digging in like the horses. Notice this thing that happens as we all come to understand ourselves a little better through them.
Eddie said that doing that interview with Sharon Stone was a true highlight for him, and now we can all see why. Thanks to Eddie and to Sharon. And now, here's the movie from 1961, The Misfits. Leading up to its release in 1961, there were high expectations for The Misfits, given the substantial star power of its writer, Arthur Miller, director John Huston, and the film's impressive cast. But it didn't turn out to be the huge hit many expected. It scored a Directors Guild nomination for Huston, but failed to earn any Oscar nominations. Today, The Misfits is often best remembered as the last film that either Clark Gable or Marilyn Monroe ever completed. Gable suffered what turned out to be a fatal heart attack shortly after production wrapped, and Monroe died of a drug overdose less than 2 years later. She had begun work on another film, the romantic comedy Something's Got to Give, but she was unable to finish it. The Misfits reunited Monroe with director John Huston, who fittingly had also directed her in the movie that first called attention to her star quality, The Asphalt Jungle, released just over a decade earlier in 1950. Up next, Marilyn Monroe stars opposite Laurence Olivier in a 1957 romantic comedy that Olivier also directed.
Next on TCM, The Prince and the Showgirl, then The Goddess, and later, Bombshell. Have more fun with Blondes on TCM tonight.